Our friend Gerald Celente is back with us. And as I said earlier, there's never a week that goes by in the year that I don't receive at least a few emails saying, reading, asking, when is Mr. Celente coming back? When is Gerald Celente going to be back on the show? The publisher of TrendsJournal, TrendsJournal.com. I've said it before, Gerald is politically as incorrect as it gets. His challenges of politicians are legendary, and his predictions of what will take place in the months and year ahead, internationally most often spot on. And 4 times a year we get the Trends Journal's look ahead at what's going on in our world. And 4 times a year, Mr. Celente joins us on this program. Gerald, it's good to have you back.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
Well, people love you. And I think it's because you say what you think.
You know, I think that's part of it, but what I'm also doing is I'm saying what a lot of people believe, and the media is so skewed to just a few voices and a few agendas that they're not hearing what they feel in their hearts and know in their minds. And as you said, you know, I forgot exactly how you said it, but I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in this stuff. I mean, to me, in the States, the Republicans and the Democrats are they're the Bloods and the Crips. And I don't say that sarcastically. I mean it with full belief. They're murderers and they're thieves. They start wars and kill millions of people based on unfound truths, or you could call them lies, whether it was the Gulf of Tonkin incident that they exaggerated, that McNamara, the defense secretary, admitted to years after the Vietnam War, or Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. So when I say murderers, that's, you know, I mean, how many more people do they have to kill and how many more wars? And thieves, they steal all our money and give it to their friends under the guise of they're too big to fail. And you haven't seen every week, I shouldn't say every week, that's exaggerating. Every few months there's another banking payoff. In this last couple of weeks it was Bank of America and Citigroup. They both paid, you know, several $1 billion in fines. Not one head rolls. Nothing. And this is going back to the Panic of '08. One fine after another, and not one person goes to jail. But boy, oh boy, you see the videos, people jaywalking, cops pouncing on them and beating the hell out of them. So for the little people, you can't step out of line. But for the other guys, so when I say I'm a political atheist, they also, just a little history here. I began my career, I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County back in the early 70s. And, of course, that was, you know, that's where Nixon took Khrushchev. You know, it was the richest county in the United States. And I also was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. I taught American politics and campaign technology, a course that I designed and instructed at St. John's University. And for several years, I was the chief government affairs specialist for the chemical industry in D.C. And one of our writers, as you see in the Trends Journal, is Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, a former assistant Treasury Secretary under Reagan. So we're guys that know what it looks like, and it's disgusting to us to see the people that are destroying this country and a country near you.
So when you say the things that you say, and you don't pull your punches, and you haven't pulled your punches in the last 4 minutes either, you say what you think what you say, what are the consequences for you? We keep hearing about consequences, and governments can be nasty, and politicians can have long memories, and they can use various tools at their disposal to make your life interesting. What are the consequences Gerald Celente has faced for saying what you say? And I'm going to take you into the Trends Journal, and I know you're going to light them up over the next few minutes, a little while that we have you on the air, on some of the things that are in the Trends Journal for the summer. What happens to you over the things you say?
Well, it's very funny you ask that, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's synchronicity. I just got an email yesterday from someone in Brazil, and they have a place there, and they sent pictures, a beautiful place. And I wrote I didn't finish the email. It's right in front of me. I said, thank you for your thoughtful letter, comments, and invitation. He said to me that I may ending up like Davy Crockett, you know, because I have all these historic buildings over here in Kingston, and I love the country so much that I want to stay. I said, one thing I don't want to do is play Davy Crockett. I liked the Walt Disney movie when I was a kid, but that's about where it stops. It makes no sense dying for a, quote, cause. Your place looks wonderful, lucky you. At this point in my life, I'm going to try to do the best I can to do what I can do. So far, I have never received a threat of any type, so that's a good reason to stay as well. Should things change, I will keep you in mind, and if I'm down in your part of the world, I'll look you up, and then it goes on.
Oh. Well, you live in a beautiful part of the world, and I've been to Kingston, New York. I've stayed over in Kingston, New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's a gorgeous part of the world as you head up toward sort of at the beginning of the Adirondacks, going from south to north, right?
Yep. And I bought in 1 year in 2012, I bought the 1750s Franz Roggen House, the 1774 Academy. That's where the elite went to school, and the 1763 Dr. Person House.
Nice.
And the other building is the 1661
Wow.
Dr. Jensen House.
Wow.
And that's owned by the county. And the reason I bought these is when I came back from Berlin in 2012, I realized you can't run away. There are two-bit freaks everywhere. This is my country. I love it. I could never be who I am. I'm of Italian descent. If I was born in Italy, I had the freedom to be me in this country. So I owe who I am and why my ancestors came here to what this country gave us. We were truly the envy of the world, and now that's being destroyed in front of us. So I figure I'm going to do whatever I can to start the Second American Revolution, but one not of bullets or bombs, but an intellectual, moral, and spiritual, and not spiritual in the Holy Ghost sense.
Oh, I hear you. I know what you meant. We'll take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk to you about the bogeyman terrorists and evildoers that's in your summer Trends Journal. And you also have Don't Blame Obamacare, Blame I Don't Care. Well, even people who are not really familiar with the American healthcare system, and most of us aren't. We thought we were, but it's become so confusing we haven't got a clue what you guys are doing, except it looks like some days it looks like you want to be like us. Then you also have police violence against the public source, and marketing to boomers and beyond could reap big bucks. Gerald, I read some time ago, this was about 10 years ago, that boomers are in control of some $2.3 trillion. $2.3 trillion. I did my research on that, and yet advertising agencies don't want to have anything to do with them.
Well, that's because everything is done geared toward the young. I mean, the lineage of ancestors, that's all but gone, and so they're missing the boat by, you hear it, every little kid is amazing or special, like they just split the atom, So that's where the mind is set.
But that's already been done, right?
Yeah, you can see it in what they produce and the way it's called pop culture is presented.
Yeah. Let me get you to hold on. We'll come back with Gerald Celente, the publisher of Trends Journal, TrendsJournal.com. Check it out, and you can subscribe, and you can get on the list, so you get it 4 times a year. And I don't get anything for saying this, other than I get Gerald on the show 4 times a year. We'll come back and talk to him about bogeyman terrorists and evildoers. Don't blame Obamacare, blame I Don't Care, police violence against the public source. And if we have time, how extreme weather patterns will change your life. For many, there will be only one solution: leave. We'll come back. TrendsJournal.com is Gerald Celente's publication, and you just check it out and order it. Check it out. Order it. It's fascinating reading. I don't always agree with you, but that's cool because people don't agree with me a lot of the time. But I find it really interesting reading. Like I read Bogeyman Terrorists and Evildoers today. And you write, to lead a nation to war, just stoke up enough fear and provide an easy target for hatred. And you reference George Bush and Al-Qaeda, Gerald.
Yes, I do. And by the way, the motto of the Trends Journal, taught to me by my dear father, may his soul rest in peace. Anytime I'd be shooting my mouth off, he'd look at me, and in the dialect from around Naples, where we came from, Vica Quince, he'd say, Papa Wal, Papagalo is the right word for parrot. He'd say, Papa Wal, stop repeating what everyone else is saying and think for yourself.
Right on.
So
right on. And that's so much of the problem in the media, and I've said it 1,000 times. Too many repeaters, not enough reporters.
Yep. So we don't want everybody to agree with us. We just put it down the way we see it, because by people seeing it in a different light than we do and giving us the information on how they see it, we learn from that. So going back to your question, what we did in this Trends Journal is I broke apart George Bush's speech to the nation on the eve of 9/11, and then the one 9 days later on September 20th, and the whole Afghan war was started on hearsay, not one shred of evidence. And as we begin it, you know, the way I led into it, reading into it, I said only a madman would speak such words, and only frightened people would believe them, and believe they did. Scared to death, Americans were dumbstruck with terror. And the lines in this thing are juvenile. And when you really look at them, you can really see them. He said that Al-Qaeda is to terror what the mafia is to crime. But Al-Qaeda's goal is not making money. Its goal is remaking the world and imposing its radical beliefs on people everywhere. You think they got better things to do? So we started commenting on this. And Roy, you can see a replay with this of what happened with that Malaysian airliner. So here's my reaction. Malaysian airliner was shot down over Ukraine. First words out, right? So I said to myself, wow, what's going on with these Malaysian airlines? I mean, this is my first gut reaction. I said, wow, they couldn't find when it was the major news on CNN for 7 weeks straight, because we reported that in the last Trends Journal, how they never stopped covering that, and now one's blown out of the sky. Virtually minutes later, Joseph Biden appears on the news. And what does he say? He said it was shot out of the air. And then you read Obama's speech 2 days later. No evidence, not a shred of evidence, all hearsay. And then I play it back in my mind. Boy, I remember when that TWA jet blew up right outside of JFK over Long Island. It took them how many months, a year, to figure out what happened? First they said a missile blew it out of the sky. No rush to judgment. We're going to do an investigation. How about it? Everybody's rushing to judgment now? The seeds of hatred are being sown. I, of course, right away tuned into all the major news broadcasts. Putin has blood on his hands of 296 people that have been killed. The whole propaganda machine is in full swing. You pick up yesterday's Financial Times. Same thing. And one after another. No evidence. No evidence. Do you know who's not making any claims? The Dutch government. Isn't that something? Most of the people were Dutch, and they're not making any rush to judgment. So when you go back to 9/11, and you look at how they used that to take the nation not only to that war, but to the Iraq war with not one shred of evidence. And again, think for yourself. You could look at the Trends Journal. You could read Bush's speech. All you have to do is Google it up. Show me one shred of evidence. Nothing.
Well,
Nothing.
you've got Putin telling Obama that the plane is down.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Russian media, and I've done that because of a guest we've had on this program on a number of occasions recently, Dr. Yuri Felstinsky, who's the co-author of Blowing Up Russia, and his co-author was murdered with sort of radiation poisoning in London by, it is said, Russian agents. So I've looked at Russian media, and their propaganda machine against Ukraine is just spinning wildly out of control. They're all doing the same thing.
Exactly.
But there's no leadership. There's nobody leading. It's
immorality is what it is. And it's coming from all over. You know, there's the other conspiracy theory going out there that Putin was coming back from Brazil at the BRIC meeting, and his plane crossed that path within 3 minutes of... Was it a missile? Again, I'm telling you, my initial thought was, what's going on with Malaysian Airlines? Who ever heard of this airlines before? You know, I mean, not many people. Now, all of
you may not hear about them again, because losing two planes, I'm not trying to be funny, losing two planes in 1 year in circumstances like that can sink an airline.
Exactly. So I'm telling you what my reaction was without having, not knowing anything. So I don't know the truth, but what I'm saying is how
everybody else seems to. Yeah. Let me. We have 3.5 minutes here, so I want to cover some territory with you. You said don't blame Obamacare, blame I don't care.
We could have the most expensive, which we do, the best healthcare system in the world. It's not going to make one bit of difference. We're forecasting, and one of our researchers, Dr. Skolnick, that the greatest health crisis in America is obesity, the food people are eating and what they're drinking. You could have the best of anything. So people have to start taking self-responsibility. There was no such thing as type 2 diabetes with children for most of my life. There was no such thing as people riding down wide aisles of supermarkets in electric carts because they're too obese to walk. So what we're saying is stop blaming the system and start looking within yourself. Again, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So it's easy to blame the government when you're living a life, and again, then we keep taking it into all the other levels. Look at the way people dress. You know, there was just something in the Irish Times that came out. They had a sign in one of the places in a place in Ireland. No coaches or American tourists, loud American tourists welcome. And so the Americans have become now, that used to be, of course, as I said, you know, this was the country that, you know, was the envy of the world. Now it's stay away. So you go to the theater. It's like people just got finished working out of their garage and cleaning it out. So the level is going down at every level. Don't blame Obamacare. Don't blame the government. Don't blame the system. Stop blaming yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. People look like they just came out from cleaning their garages. I remember when I was a young guy, going to an NHL hockey game in Montreal on a Saturday night meant you put on a suit and a tie and a shirt.
And remember flying in airplanes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You put on your suit when you got on an airplane.
Yeah, now it's a flying circus.
On a good day. What about this, in the minute we have left, police violence against public source? There's been public concern about police actions in Canada as well. What are you referencing?
Well, what we're referencing is all of these military armaments that they use in Iraq and Afghanistan are now flowing into the States. And we have a militarized police. Look what happened with the Boston bombing. They closed down, about 100 miles around Boston. They put the city on lockdown, going door to door. This is against all the writs of habeas corpus. It's against the Constitution. It's against the amendments. And then you're looking at a lot of these cops are whacked out on steroids, and they're beating the hell out of people. You can see them on the videotape.
Somebody in New York choked the other night.
Yeah. And so it's a whole different time. I have to say, where we are over here, the state troopers, nobody wants to go out at night. They're out there breaking your chops for every little thing. The city police, there aren't such good sections around town. They leave you alone for little stuff because they know they have bigger problems. But the whole thing is now becoming a militarized police. Oh, and again, look how quick they pointed to who shot down the plane and what. When a cop beats the hell out of somebody, they're shooting dogs. They just shot a cop walked up to a car,
Gerald?
he thought it was stolen. The dog was barking in the car with the window
Gerald?
a little open, and they shot the dog.
I got to go, but it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and look forward to the next time. Thank you. Gerald Celente, TrendsJournal.com. We'll come back and wrap up. And that's it for this July weekend. Thank you so much, as always, for being part of it. For your emails and your calls and your tweets. Remember, you can listen back anytime to anything that you're choosing at RoyGreenshow.com in the podcast section. And follow me on Twitter at The Roy Green Show. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next Saturday. 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 Week,